Hey there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode where we're going to talk about something incredibly important, something that we here at Key Digital are quite well known for now. That is the solution to your HDMI connectivity problems. That is your fix to HDMI integration challenges, such as no signal at your display, color spacing problems where you might see a neon green or pink hue to your color, or even broken DDC that looks like the static on the screen. We've all seen that before, heard of that before, and had this happen to you if you've had any experience whatsoever integrating Pro AV systems with HDMI distribution. So if these issues have happened to you and you have experienced those before, we've got the perfect product for you. It is our KD-FIX418A-2. This product is a signal regeneration and boosting solution with 4K to 1080p resolution down convert. If you would like that feature, you could turn that on. We'll show you how. It has EDID and HDCP authentication. So there's software inside to provide those HDCP keys. There's software inside to tell the connected source exactly what video resolution and audio format you want from it through the EDID dial. There's digital and analog audio de-embedding. It supports 4K with 18 gigabits per second signal bandwidth, HDR in HDCP 2.2, and it supports surround audio formats up to Dolby 7.1 and Atmos and DTS HD surround audio. So it's really it's a fix-it-all, if you will. A lot of people even call it like the Swiss Army knife of HDMI connectivity solutions. So what's inside the KD-FIX418A-2? One of the most useful tools is what's called forced hot plug detection. To understand what forced hot plug detection does for you, let's first paint the picture of, if the hot plug detection is not detected. You ever seen this before? All the wires are connected, all the boxes are on, but there's no signal at the display or the projector. Sometimes you may even have a display that doesn't even let you select that source because the display simply thinks there's nothing connected on that input. That's where the forced hot plug detection can be quite handy for you. Simply slide that switch from off to on the side of the unit, and we're going to force the voltage to the high state on the output of the FIX418A-2 device. What's that? That's going to do is at your display, at your projector, even if there is no AV signal, it's going to see the voltage of a live source, a live partner on the other end of that HDMI cable. Because hot plug detection is really, think about HDMI in a one-to-one situation. If the source is connected directly into the display, and let's say your source, maybe a cable box, is always on, but the display is not always on, the display finally turns on and it sends voltage to the source saying, hey, you've got a live partner here. Now that's a loop that must be completed. So the source reciprocates that voltage to the display, allowing it to detect and telling it, hey, you've got a live partner. And now we can make those next steps in the HDMI handshaking process. So when this is set to off, or if you didn't have this tool, then of course that voltage would be just bypassing through the system. However, in Pro AV systems, things are not one-to-one. You don't always just have a short HDMI cable, neither. Therefore, when you have long cables, when you have many layers of connectivity, that voltage may dip. That's where that forced hot plug detection tool becomes so crucial to resolving installation challenges you may encounter in the field. And this is something that our tech support team generally recommends you turn on all the time. It's not on as default out of the box. It's a tool to help you get out of those troubles, though. So once you have that solid detection of the live partner through hot plug detection voltage, the next step in your HDMI handshaking is the EDed handshake. Once again, if we break this down to one, whether it's a consumer display or a commercial projector or video wall, an EDed file is provided from the display to the source. This is a top-down list. It's a file that tells the source the supported video resolutions and audio formats by the display. For example, if I have a 4K video source, but my display is 1080p, when the EDed handshake goes to the source is going to receive that and say, okay, I'm connected to a 1080p monitor right now, so I cannot output 4K resolution. And really, this is a top-down list. They may not always see eye to eye on their highest common denominator, so they may work their way down. So it's not just the video resolution, it's also the audio format. So for example, some of your consumer displays may have Dolby licensing, and you may see that logo on your display or on the box of the display. Often those displays are capable of supporting an incoming 5.1 surround signal and decoding that, even though they have just 2-channel audio speakers on the display itself. Or a projector may provide a handshake to the source that just says, hey, let's keep this simple, only give me 2-channel audio. And similarly, it's not just displays. Of course, if you have a surround receiver connected, it's probably going to tell the connected source that it can support and output a 5.1 or maybe even a 7.1 audio signal or higher with formats such as Dolby Atmos and whatnot supported nowadays. This is all part of the EDed handshake. The display, once again, provides this. It goes backward, if you will, upstream from the display to the source. The source then will output a signal that it says that it thinks will be compatible with the display. So the EDed goes backward from display to source, then the AV signal goes from source to display. Now, of course, in a one-to-one connection and scenario, sounds simple. However, we're talking here about Pro AV installations with many sources to a display, perhaps many displays to a source. What's going to happen then? Has this ever happened to you? Perhaps you have video at the display, but you have no audio. Well, that's simply that the handshake provided from the display to the source has done something to perhaps confuse the source, or they're not seeing eye to eye when it comes to the audio format that it should output. I personally have seen this through the technical support phones. And actually what happened there was an incoming 4K resolution handshake to the connected video source confused it to the point that it outputted a DVI. Remember DVI, the foundation of digital video? It's like HDMI, but it had no audio at all, right? Audio was on a separate connector. And so that's what the source was outputting, because it was actually a DirecTV satellite receiver box, and which was at least a dozen years old. So when it received that 4K handshake, it really did not know what that meant, what to do with that. And it essentially went down to its lowest common denominator, DVI, video, but no audio. If that's happened to you, fret not. We have the EDed selection dial on the side of the unit here, where we open up the manual and we see the meaning, the video resolution, and the audio format of each of those settings. And in general, we give 3 options for every video resolution: one with 2-channel audio, a second option with 5.1 surround, and a third option with HD audio formats. That's your 7.1 audio surround. Now, I've mentioned before Dolby Atmos, but you may not see Atmos listed here in the EDed. In instances like that, you'd want to use 0, copy EDed from the HDMI output, where you have a Dolby Atmos supported recipient or a sync device, such as a surround receiver, and we can provide, and then if we set the EDed to 0, the KD-FIX418A-2 device will actually collect the EDID from the sync device, the AV receiver in this case. It'll collect and it will put a copy of that file into the software of the unit and then provide that to the source. So it's never passing through. No, it's always a one-to-one topology in these systems. That's what we're essentially doing here, is taking the complicated one-to-many or many-to-one in Pro AV, and we're making a one-to-one topology out of it. And really, we give you everything you need here. 4K at 10 gigabits per second, 18 gigabits per second. We do have some DVI handshakes as well for those systems. Another great feature of the KD-FIX418A-2 is TMDS reclocking. What is TMDS? Well, we see here what it stands for, but just know simply this is the video and audio layer of HDMI. This is the truly heavy portion of the signal. And if you've been around in this industry long enough to know what these open eye scopes do for us, on the left we could see what is a healthy HDMI TMDS signal on an HDMI cable. Only 1 meter into the cable run, we see a very clearly defined open eye. Digital video is ones and zeros. The ones are that helix shape of the TMDS signal. The zeros are the open eye formed by a clear helix shape. However, after only 3 meters, and this is why, HDMI cabling length has always been an important topic. After only 3 meters, you begin to see the separation of that data. Those ones and zeros are no longer so clearly defined, and they may begin looking like squiggly lines. This could manifest itself on your screen as digital sparkle, especially if you have a gray or a black signal on your screen. You may see some white snowflakes, if you will, or sparkle on your screen. This is the beginning of the end. You don't want to push your signal any further than that, let me tell you, because your HDMI sync device, in this case your display, is not able to actually read the incoming signal. What is a 1? What is a 0? And that's why those pixels are broken, if you will. And with HDMI, there's not much tolerance for loss, right? Not much threshold for loss. And so that's why I say this is the beginning of the end. You should not go any further. And just because it's working with a little bit of sparkle today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. That's where the TMDS fixing feature comes in so handy. On the input of the KD-FIX418A-2, it receives that signal because it's not always a short cable, or because, once again, there may be many layers of connectivity. We receive that incoming signal and we reclock the signal to make brand new ones and zeros out of what we can read. So you can't have this all the way at the end of, let's say, a 500-foot HDMI cable. If you were ever to find such a thing, don't buy it. But if that's what you have in the wall, you can't put this at the end and expect it to work. But it's going to be like putting it almost like a Wi-Fi repeater, right? You put it at the furthest point where you have a strong signal, and then you get a brand new signal. So you can actually go further length once again, if needed. Now, here's the great thing. These features are actually built in to all key digital products. Our HDMI fixers, our HDMI extenders, switchers, distribution amplifiers, matrices, and our AV over IP system. All feature TMDS reclocking, EDID handshaking, HDCP key authentication, and and forced hot plug detection voltage settings to help you overcome the most common integration challenges when you're installing a professional HDMI video distribution system and switching system. So let's get back to the FIX418A-2. We also have audio de-embedding on both analog and digital. The analog is a 3.5 millimeter stereo port. The digital is a Toslink optical audio connector. Of course, the stereo port supports 2-channel audio maximum, and the optical supports 5.1, 6.1 Dolby and DTS. There are no volume controls, no format conversion, no equalization on this. It's simply a de-embedding of what is the incoming signal. And of course, you still have audio on the HDMI output signal as well. How about integrating the fixer with long signal runs like I had mentioned a moment ago? Here you can place your KD-FIX418A-2 at the head end of your long run. This is if the source may have a weak output signal. It may not be the source itself. Oftentimes that could be an additional AV switcher, AV surround receiver, for example, devices that are more engineered to be audio products, yet have the HDMI connector, because of course HDMI is simply everywhere in all sorts of products these days. Some of those products may not have the know-how like a Key Digital of how to make that work and be reliable. Oftentimes those manufacturers will actually recommend Key Digital's fixer product. You would install that at the output of the fixer, so then you could go that long run. Similarly, sometimes you need to put the fixer at the end of the HDMI cable. That may be something, for example, if you have that digital sparkle on the screen, putting the fixer at the end of the long run with another short HDMI cable afterward can often be what we would recommend. And I'll say that, you know, oftentimes when you call our tech support team, we're going to tell you where we recommend installing the FIX418A-2 based on the problem you've described. But we might also say, all right, start by putting it closer to the display side. If that doesn't work, try it out closer to the source side. Because, you know, with HDMI, there's really so little that the HDMI will actually tell you on the display. You don't see, oh, your cable's too long on the display. You know, you see the manifestation of the problems, like I showed in the earlier slides, of mismatched color spacing or digital sparkle on the screen, but you don't see the display or the source itself telling you what the problems are typically. Here's another unique feature of the KD-FIX418A-2. You can actually take an incoming 4K signal and down convert it to 1080p resolution. When do you use this? Well, for example, let's take a look here where we have an AV matrix system with the 4K matrix. The matrix is telling the sources, hey, go ahead and give me 4K. And 3 out of 4 of the displays supports 4K resolution. However, the fourth display, or in this case, is a projector, which only supports 1080p. So here we're able to install the FIX418A-2 on that output of the matrix, taking that incoming 4K resolution and outputting it at 1080p to accommodate the 1080p display. And perhaps it might not even be the display, but perhaps it's the cable in the wall that's 1080p maximum. And that's, once again, where this comes in handy for you. So lots and lots of applications. It's really one of those products that we recommend folks have at least one on the shelf in their inventory or one in each of their vans as they roll out these jobs, because you're going to use it. And if you want to get one of these for your vans, then you should reach out to us at sales@keydigital.com, and we'll talk to you about the best options for purchasing the KD-FIX418A-2. We thank you very much for joining us today. We hope it's been informative. And